Welcome back to another episode of the Girls Talk Money podcast. As mentioned in a previous episode, and as I'm sure many of you have seen on social media, Erin recently moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Nashville, Tennessee. So in today's episode, we'll be talking all through the logistics of making a long distance move, answering all of your questions about the financial aspect, moving with the dog, and settling into a completely new city. But to start, first of all, congratulations on the move, Erin. I'm so stinking excited for you. We were literally just sitting here before we hit record, just talking about the move, because I'm just excited to hear about it. But how are you liking your new space so far? Because when we're filming this, it has been a week since you moved. So yeah, like what are your initial thoughts? Give us like a rating.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this episode too, because Grace and I were saying before we started filming that we haven't talked in a week and a half. We haven't talked literally at all since I moved down here. So her and I haven't even had the chance to catch up about the move yet. And yes, I have been in this apartment for 1 week exactly. I moved down to Nashville last Thursday, and it's a Thursday when we're recording this. And I feel like I've gotten actually so much done in the last 7 days. I have been taking it kind of easy, like on the work side. This is the first full day that I'm like getting work stuff done since moving, because I have just been prioritizing getting my space together. I know we talked about this in another episode. I feel like we've talked about moving in so many podcast episodes
I know, right?
so far, because it is like such a big topic of conversation, especially when it relates to money. But I know we talked in another podcast episode about how when you're moving, it's so important to get your space put together up front, because as you settle into your space and live there for longer and longer, your propensity to want to decorate and want to organize and get all of your things settled just goes so downhill so quickly. So my one really good friend actually flew up to Nashville last weekend to help me. She like wanted plans for the 4th anyway, so she said she would come up to help me decorate. And her apartment in Florida looks like it's straight out of Pinterest. I knew she would be a really good person to help me decorate, and we got so much done. I only have a couple things left to do, like a couple little pieces of furniture left to build and everything. But my apartment is coming along literally so well. I'm so obsessed with the space. If you've seen on my social media, like the apartment is absolutely beautiful. It's honestly my dream apartment. I'm making it very girly. I was kind of taking the approach that this could potentially be the last apartment that I ever live in by myself. Like, who knows where life is going to take me, but the next time I move apartments, I could be moving in with a boy or something like that. So I wanted to make it pink and girly and cute while I can.
I was just saying to someone the other day that, like, okay, first of all, what you said about like your propensity to actually decorate going downhill is so true, because when I moved into this apartment in January, everyone on my social media was like, take your time furnishing it. And I was like, guys, wait, you think I'm going to live here for a long time? Like, I was like, no, no, no. Like, I'm going to be here for a year. This was like a stepping stone to get me out of my parents' house. And then I'm going to figure out where I want to move and move in January to like another state. But I was like, I want to be done. I don't want to be building furniture for my entire year-long lease. I want to be done. But there are certain rooms that I just like didn't decorate. Like my office, there's nothing on the walls. My bedroom, nothing on the walls. Like my living room is the same thing. Is so like it's pretty bare. And I was just saying to someone the other day, I was like, I really want to start girlifying my apartment. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, girlifying. I was like, here's the thing. I said, because the second I like move in with someone, I'm gonna have to compromise. I'm like, maybe they will let me put like pink pillows on the sofa, who knows? But realistically, I should take advantage of the time being a woman living alone and make my apartment cute and girly. And I do have like a heart-shaped pillow, but it's like tan. It's like a beige color. Like it's like neutrals. But I feel like whenever I move into my next apartment, I'm definitely going to go like more girly and colorful, because I like the neutrals, but my apartment does definitely give sad beige baby for sure.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that, because you've been in your apartment for like almost 6 months now, and you're saying that there's still rooms that aren't decorated. And that's how I felt about my last place. It wasn't like I was intentionally trying to not decorate, because I did have a 15-month lease at my last place, and I didn't know at the time that I was going to end up breaking it 6 months later. So I was planning on being in that apartment for a decent amount of time. But again, once you get into a space and a month goes by and you haven't decorated yet, then all of a sudden you just kind of get used to the way that your space looks, and you don't really have any desire to decorate. Like I had picture frames and things like that in my last apartment that literally sat in a closet and never got hung up. So this weekend, my one friend is coming in from out of town. I swear, like my friends are so excited that I'm living in Nashville. Like one friend was visiting me last weekend, another friend is visiting me this weekend, which is so fun. It's fun to have people come and visit, and that's the benefit of living in a destination city. And I know Grace is planning on coming down in August, which is going to be so fun too. But she is my one friend that knows how to use a drill. So I was like, Emma, you're coming down here and I'm putting you to work. We're going to spend a couple of hours like building the last pieces of furniture that I need to build. And then I have some things that I need to hang on the wall, because I was like, if I don't get them hung on the wall this weekend, they're never going up.
No, honestly, I feel like it was one of those things when I moved in where I was like, I just wanted to be done. And I remember I spent like that weekend just trying to get as much stuff as possible and get it squared away. And I remember it took me a long time to find the right rug for my living room. And I was so annoyed by the time I found one. I was like, oh my God, I just want to be done. That then, yeah, I just kind of gave up on the other rooms. Like I said, my office has nothing on the walls, but it's also stressful. I feel like when you first move in, well, I guess it goes both ways. It's stressful to like have to spend all the money on all of the things, but then later on, like now I'm at a point where I'm like, do I really want to spend like $300 on wall art? No. I'm like, it's fine. I'm only here for 6 more months. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I will buy it. And that, but then, yeah, then my space looks so empty. And I was just saying to Erin before we got on here that my apartment has gray floors and gray walls, and then like gray cabinets in the kitchen. There's just gray everywhere, which I know was like the style at one point in time, which I feel like maybe that was the style when they started building this complex a couple of years ago. But like, it's just, it is so gray that I feel like it desperately needs some decor or something, because when I film, it looks so cool toned. Even like filming on here, like it's washing me the heck out because it's just gray and white everywhere. But I don't know. I look forward to being in a space that looks better, that I can actually decorate the whole thing and not have it be. I also will say I don't like things. Like I don't like knickknacks, random things on, like I want everything to have a purpose, because if not, I don't want to have to clean around random things. Like it irks me. So I feel like when I moved into this apartment, I was like, I'm just going to be very minimal and like not have things, extra things that I don't need, but it does look bare.
Yeah.
So I figure my next apartment, I'll figure it out. I'll do
Yeah,
my
and
next
you
apartment.
mentioned about like not wanting to spend $300 on wall art because you're only going to be there for 6 more months. And I feel like this is a good topic of conversation, because if you've been following me on social media, and I might have mentioned this in the podcast in a different episode, I'm sure I have, but when I moved, I only took what fit in my car, got rid of literally all of my things, and bought pretty much everything new. And in this episode, at some point, we are going to talk about like the cost breakdown and kind of like give some numbers and stuff, because that sounds so overwhelming. But I just feel like having went through that and like ended up repurchasing everything, everyone kept asking me whether I regretted it, whether there were things that I wish I could have taken, whether I ended up thinking it was a waste of money to buy everything new. And genuinely, I would do it the exact same way if I had to do it again. I just sort of feel like there were definitely things in my last apartment that were cute, right? Like, for example, I couldn't bring like the throw pillows that were on my couch and some things that were on my walls and stuff. Having been here, though, half of that stuff wouldn't have ended up even being used, because when you move to a new space, like, one, you want to redecorate, but then you end up kind of going with like a little bit of a different vibe, and then things don't end up matching. Like I told my one friend that was here last weekend, like, oh, I really wanted to bring my throw pillows that were on my couch because I loved them. They were super cute. I got them at like Home Goods. It's not like they were crazy expensive or anything. I was like, but they were super cute and they wouldn't fit in my car. But then once we started decorating, I was like, wait, Mandy, those throw pillows wouldn't have even matched. So I would have had to like, not had to buy new throw pillows, but I wanted to buy new throw pillows. And the throw pillows that I did buy look so cute in my space. I'm obsessed with them. I got like pink ones that are super floral and stuff. So just things like that. I definitely don't regret it. Don't regret doing it the way that I did it, because most of the things that I would have spent thousands of dollars on movers to bring down here, I wouldn't have even ended up using in my new space. I also like only packing what could fit in my car really made me be honest with like, what do I use and what don't I use? Like, I was going through my kitchen cabinets and I was like, why do I have so much stuff? I use the same 3 cups every single day. I had like 3 sets of plates and I only use the cute pink ones. So like the rest of them, why do I have all of this stuff? And I think like my last apartment in Pittsburgh was so big and had so much cabinet space and stuff that I just kind of acquired things and I had no reason to get rid of them. But that really forced me to be honest with myself about what I actually needed.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't like extra things, so I feel like I'm always going through my space and getting rid of stuff that I don't use. But when I moved from my parents' house into this apartment, I was moving from like a 10 by 10 bedroom, very small bedroom, into a 1,300 square foot apartment. I was shocked at like just how much I had that I was like, oh, I forgot I had this. Like, I don't use this at all. Like I just forgot it existed. And now I have so much like empty space in my apartment. Like I literally only have 4 plates. Well, I have 4 big ones, 4 little ones, 4 bowls,
Yeah,
whatever. But like, because
that's
it's
what I
only
have
it's
too.
just me. Like it's just me.
Yeah.
That's all I need. But I feel like whenever I move out of here, I will definitely be doing the same thing because there are, especially when it comes to, I know we talked about this in another episode, but especially when it comes to like clothes, like I feel like it's so easy to accumulate so much over the years, especially if you're not changing sizes. Like you'll have something from years ago that you're like, why do I even have this, you know? And I do feel like the whole like selling things and getting rid of it before moving and then only taking what you can fit in your car was such a smart move instead of paying for movers, because even to move from my parents' house to where I am now, which is only 30 minutes away, it was $600 for the movers. And I believe that was before a tip. So I gave like both of the movers a tip as well. And I don't remember how much, but like $700 around there to move 30 minutes down the road. I can't even imagine what it would be to like move
Yeah.
multiple states. And
And you
if
didn't
you,
even have
yeah,
furniture. You didn't even
no,
have
no.
like, yeah, that
I had
wasn't a
like my
couch. That wasn't
dresser,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
dresser, 2 desks, like things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like to move a couch, I feel like if you're moving houses where you have thousands of dollars worth of furniture and like if you have like an heirloom piece or like things like that that you really want to be secure and to take with you, I think it makes sense. But for our
Yeah.
situation where we're just moving apartments and we're not like really tied to anything, it's like why pay, yeah, thousands of dollars to move, you know, $1,000 worth of items when you could just,
Yeah.
you know, take a car full of stuff.
Exactly. I think it was going to be like $5,000 or $6,000 to get movers, and I like
Oh my
immediately
God.
knew that that was not worth it for me. Since we are talking about money, I can give the cost breakdown of everything that I spent
Yes.
because I
Give
know
us the
people are
tea. Give us
interested.
the scoop. That's what
Yeah.
everyone's here for. They want to know the numbers. They want the nitty gritty details. How much did you spend, girl? They want to
And
know.
I would just like to preface this by saying I plan to post a TikTok video about this as well. And like, I'm going to say I'm this is not like a budget friendly experience. You know what I mean? Like, I was not sitting here trying to penny pinch. I was not sitting here trying to be like, oh my God, like, let me go on Facebook Marketplace for all of my furniture. Like, I realized that I am in like a very good situation to be like, okay, I want to decorate my space. I want to make my space look cute. I like am spending a lot of money in rent every month. So I want to make my space look the way that I want it to look. But I will give a breakdown. Honestly, I was like doing the numbers today for this episode, and the numbers weren't that bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so costs associated with the move first. My move-in fees to my apartment were $825. That was just my security deposit and my pet fee. The big one here is the cost for breaking my lease. I did break my lease. Which was the cost of 2 months' rent, which was $3,751. And that was totally a sunk cost. Don't get
Just took
anything
the
back
L
for
on
that
that one.
one. Just took a major $3,700 L for breaking my lease for my apartment. But like I said in another episode, my lease went until March of 2025, and I just really wasn't willing to stay in my apartment in Pittsburgh until March of 2025. I kind of saw it as buying back a year of my life, for better or for worse. But yeah, $3,700 to break my lease. That was a lot. I made from selling my old furniture, I made $1,600. And I will say, I put in very minimal effort doing this. And I am happy with $1,600 for the fact that I put in very minimal effort. I like gave my sister some stuff. There was a couple at my apartment complex in Pittsburgh that just got a house, and I gave them like a really good deal for buying like a bunch of pieces of furniture. So yeah, I really didn't put in much effort. I think I could have gotten more, but selling things on Facebook Marketplace is honestly such a pain. It's like a
It
full-time
is.
job.
People are so weird on there too sometimes. Like you're selling something for like $10 and you have to hunt them down. You're like,
Yeah.
hello, like get back to me. Sometimes it's not worth the stress. Sometimes people will lowball me and I'm like, just take it. Just take it away from me. I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, and like as a single girl living alone, like you're having a bunch of strangers coming into your house. So
Yeah.
like trying to be weary about like, okay, who's coming in and like, is that safe and all of those things. Like I'm happy with the $1,600 that I made.
Yeah, I feel like that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had like some big pieces of furniture and stuff. So yeah, I did a pretty good job there. The amount that I spent on furniture and decorations. Okay, let's get into these numbers. So first, I spent $1,410 at Ashley Furniture. I bought my couch at Ashley's, so it's the one that's in my living room, and then I also bought an ottoman to go with it. I didn't count the amount that I spent on if you're watching the video version of this, I'm not counting the amount that I spent on this sleeper sofa that's in my office, because since it's in my office, that's a business expense. So I was able to use my business credit card on this one, and obviously I'm filming the podcast on it, so that makes sense. I spent $688 at Wayfair, and that was on my bed and my mattress. I bought a king size bed and a king size mattress, and so many people were like, "Oh, you bought your mattress on Wayfair and like didn't test it out." And that's like a pretty good price for a bed and a mattress, $688. But I'm a 25-year-old. Like, I don't need to be splurging on like the most expensive mattress ever. It's the exact same mattress that was in my apartment in Pittsburgh, and it was like totally comfortable and totally fine. And I
Yeah.
was like, if it ever gets not comfortable, I can just get a mattress topper or something. So
That's
I
a
thought
really good price for a bed frame and like king size bed frame and a
so
mattress.
the bed frame itself was like less than $200. Bed frames like are not. It just like a
I feel like
headboard.
it depends. If you go with like a really simple one that just doesn't have anything to it, but like if you, because I looked into upgrading my bed because I have a full size one. I was like, what if I got a king and like upgraded? Then I was like, no, because some of them are really expensive.
Yeah. No, I just got a simple one. It's cute though. It has like a velvet headboard and
cute.
like just it's like it doesn't have any storage drawers underneath it or anything. It's just simple. But yeah, so $688 on a bed and a mattress. I spent $2,604 at Home Goods over the weekend. And this is not just decorations. I did buy a lot of like furniture pieces at Home Goods. I think that I talked about this in another episode, but I was so determined to not spend my entire first week here building furniture. Like, I knew that if I ordered all of my furniture on Amazon and Wayfair and like all of that, it would come in boxes. I would have to put the furniture together, and then I would also have to discard of all of the boxes. And when I moved into my apartment in Pittsburgh, that like stressed me out so much, and I had cardboard boxes everywhere, and it was like so annoying. And building furniture, I had to hire someone on TaskRabbit, so I spent like hundreds and hundreds of dollars hiring people on TaskRabbit to come build my furniture. So I just didn't want to do that. And Home Goods actually has like, if you buy a bunch of pieces of furniture there, you can get movers. It's kind of like Uber, but for movers. Or like TaskRabbit, but for movers. So it's like a third-party service. It's called Dolly, and movers will just like come to Home Goods and pick up all of the stuff that you buy and like drive it to your apartment.
Nice.
So I spent, on top of the $2,604 I spent at Home Goods, I also spent $334 on like the Dolly movers to move all of the stuff. So they came and picked up. I got like huge area rugs because my apartment doesn't have any carpet, so I needed area rugs for all three of the rooms. I got a dresser there. I got like some floor lamps, just like I got like a big full length mirror, just like a bunch of like miscellaneous things that I needed to fill my space. And then they came and picked it all up and brought it all here. So that was really great. So if you're looking for like cute pieces of furniture, because that was the other thing, I was like, I don't want to furnish all of my stuff with like IKEA and Amazon stuff because then it's just kind of boring. But I feel like Home Goods has a lot of like cute different pieces. So I was able to go in there in person, see them all in person, and like curate all of my stuff and have them come pick it up and move it all.
Yeah, not having to build the furniture is like, I know we talked about this before, but I feel like the like opportunity cost, like, because I remember when I first moved in, I would spend literally hours every single night after work building some sort of freaking piece of furniture, and also building it by yourself. Like multiple pieces of furniture that I built in my apartment, it would literally say in the instructions, this is for 2 people. And I'd be like, well, I have one. So what am I going to, it's just me. Like, what am I going to wait for someone to come around and build it for me? Like, no, just going to try to build it myself. Like, I feel like that's the move, honestly, to go somewhere where the furniture's already put together and they just plop it down in your apartment. Like,
Yes.
because it just saves you. You don't have to worry about building it and all the time you waste and all that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's why I got my couch from Ashley Furniture, because for only a $200 delivery fee, which it was for like my sofa in my living room and my sleeper sofa in my office. So for $200 for the entire order, they delivered it here. They brought it in, set it up, and removed all of the boxes,
Yeah.
which was so nice.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my couch that's in my apartment. It's massive, and I just paid an extra $200 for white glove delivery, where they do the same thing, drop it off, put it all together, and then they take all the packaging out and everything. And it was like the best $200 spent, because I mean, first of all, there's no way I would get an entire couch into my apartment myself. Like,
No.
I
Like physically
know.
not possible.
Yeah, no, physically not possible. They could barely get it through the doorway. Like, I can't even imagine me trying. No, it just wouldn't even work. But yeah, it's just way easier that way, and not having to worry about all the boxes and building everything.
Yeah, I did buy so on top of those costs, I spent $389 at Target on some miscellaneous things, and then I spent $415 at Amazon. I did get my desk and my chair in my office from Amazon, and I built both of those things. And then the only other thing that I still have to build, my bedroom, is the last thing that is like not put together. And the reason being is because my mattress is still, I like laid a sheet down and my mattress is on the floor because my bed needs built. And when Emma gets here this weekend, she's the one that knows how to use the drill. So she's going to help me build my bed. So my mattress is still on the floor, but we're figuring that out. So yeah, between my bed and then my office desk and chair, those are the only pieces of furniture that I had to build, which was really great.
Which is not bad.
No. Yeah. So that brings my total that I spent on furniture and decorations to $5,840. So still under that $6,000 mark, which is what I would have spent on movers. And then between like all of the costs associated with like breaking my lease and things, and then minus the amount that I made selling my old furniture, that brings my total net cost to $8,816 for the move.
Which maybe I'm like crazy, but I don't think that that's that bad, considering the fact that you paid almost $4,000 to break your lease. Like, that is a large cost of that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's really not, because then if you subtract the $4,000, then you only spent $4,800 net when you think about it. And to buy all of that stuff new, all of the decor, because a lot of stuff in your previous apartment wouldn't have even like fit, right? Like first, your couch was huge, so like it wouldn't have
my
fit
couch wouldn't have
in
fit.
your new place, and like your decor wasn't something you really wanted to take with you. And like, I really don't feel like that's bad. I feel like when I moved 30 minutes down the road, I probably could have spent more, but I probably spent that much on just like my couch and like some of the furniture that I had to buy, or like, because I had to get like plates and all that type of stuff. Like, I don't feel like that's that bad.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I don't think that the numbers are that bad either. And I feel like this is why I wanted to share all of this, just because I think a lot of people think that making a big move like this isn't possible. But when you actually run all of the numbers, like obviously it's important to plan ahead for it. And if like, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm in a situation where I could afford the $3,700 to break my lease. Like, that is a large amount of money. That's literally just a sunk cost, like taking a major L. However, if you are in a situation where you think you want to move out of state and maybe you do have 6 to 7 months left in a lease or something like that, saving up, like figuring out about how much money you're going to need to save up to do something like that, and then realizing that the numbers actually aren't the craziest thing in the world. Like if this is something that you really think is going to be an investment in yourself and is going to help you grow in whatever way you're looking to grow, then it's not impossible. And I think sharing the numbers can hopefully be like kind of inspiring.
Yeah, I think there's like an opportunity cost of staying where you're at too, which is something that we had talked about before as well. Just like if you continue to stay where you're at, there's like, are you preventing yourself from certain opportunities? Are you preventing yourself from being happier, which then inevitably impacts your performance at work and with your friendships and all of these things? Or if the place you're living is a place you feel stuck or you're just not loving anymore, like there's an opportunity cost of staying where you are. I also think too, for what it's worth, that like a lot of the stuff that you bought, you didn't necessarily have to buy. So like for obviously you wanted to, but like for someone who maybe wants to move, but even like the 8 grand, even or the 4,800 without the lease breaking cost, like you don't have to buy like you could go a few months without area rugs or like without decorative pillows, or you know what I mean? Like you could in theory do it on a budget. I think a lot of people think a long distance move will be really, really expensive because of the fact that movers are expensive for a long distance move. I also think it does depend too if you're moving somewhere where you can drive or not, because I don't know how much it costs to like ship a car across the country, but like I know someone who just moved from Texas to Massachusetts and like decided to ship their car. And I don't know how much. I'm assuming like at least $1,000,
Yeah, I
at
think it's a
least
couple
1,500.
thousand.
Yeah, like I feel
Yeah.
like it's got to be up there.
Hmm.
Um, that obviously adds to the cost. So like having a car that you can drive or being willing to drive. Which then on that note, what was it like moving with Bella? Because it's not like you have a Chihuahua, like you have an entire golden retriever. like it's a big dog. Like, and you're making a long
Yeah.
drive. Like what was that actually like?
Yeah, I will say on this topic too, like I think people make this out to be a lot more difficult than it needs to be. I know when I was talking about moving in a couple of my TikTok videos, everyone was in my comments being like, how did you even start preparing for that? Like, that seems really overwhelming. It was not overwhelming, literally, in the slightest. Like, obviously, again, we're talking about money here. Like, the money, it does seem very overwhelming, and this is like a large chunk of money. So, planning ahead for that portion of it is really important. However, from a logistics standpoint, there was really no difference in moving out of state than there was just moving to another apartment in Pittsburgh. Like, I came down here, I found an apartment, I signed the lease, I packed up my car, I drove 8 hours. The like most logistical, I don't even want to call it a nightmare because it was honestly kind of easy, but it was figuring out like, okay, I do have a golden retriever, so how is she gonna do in the car for 8 hours? But I literally just went to her vet and I got her a prescription for the medicine that like kind of like Benadryl for dogs. It's the same thing that she used when she got spayed, so I know it was like fine for her and I know she would react well to it. So I just gave her some sleepy meds and she slept kind of the whole way. It did take me a little bit longer than 8 hours because every time we stopped, I would like take her on a little walk and stuff. So I think it took me like 9.5 hours, but I left my apartment in Pittsburgh at 4:30 in the morning, and then I got to Nashville around 1 p.m., which would have been 2 p.m. Pittsburgh time. So yeah, about like 9.5 hours. It was not a bad drive at all. It was so easy. And then I only had a carload of stuff to unpack. So it was pretty easy, honestly. There wasn't like too much that I needed to figure out logistic wise. Obviously, if you're coming down here and you're like starting a new job or you have to find a job or anything like that. But for me, I was like, this doesn't really seem like that big of a deal because my day to day is going to look the exact same as what it looked like in Pittsburgh. I'm still just working from my apartment every day and I'm still just taking my dog on walks and going to the gym and everything like that. But being in a new environment has honestly been so inspiring already. And it's only been a week. I know you talked about kind of the opportunity cost of staying where you're at. And I think for me, I just like noticed myself getting a little bit too comfortable in Pittsburgh. Like I wasn't seeking out new opportunities. I wasn't seeking out new friendships. I wasn't trying new things and stuff like that. And I knew I wanted to put myself into a space where I was kind of forcing myself out of my comfort zone. And even being here a week, I went on 2 little like friend dates with new people that I'm gonna remain friends with. Like I really liked both of the girls. There's like so many cool places that I want to try out and just like new things that I want to do. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I feel like going back to the like logistic stuff too, I feel like a lot of the logistical stuff too can happen like after you move, where like getting a new license, getting a new like new plates on your car, and like finding new doctors, and just like, you know, a new vet for Bella, or like new car insurance. That was something people kept commenting on a video I made about, like, you know, where should I move? People were like, oh, like take into account the car insurance, which like I already have. Doing like freelance writing, I've written about like insurance costs and like all of that like a million times. So I know like insurance costs are going to be different everywhere, but like I feel like that type of stuff also gets overwhelming and tedious for people, especially when you have like a job you have to be at like 9 to 5, because that's when a lot of these places are open, like to go get your new like license and stuff like that. But I feel like it all just depends on like the mindset you go into it with, of like whether or not you're going to make it a big deal or not. Like, you know, whether you're going to be like, oh, I have to get my license, my new license or my new plates. Like, oh my God, I'm stressed out. Or if you're just going to be like, I have to do it. So I'm just going
Yeah.
to suck it up and do it. And I'm just going to get it done with. And I'm not going to like let it take up so much brain space. But on that note, like now that I mean, you've only been there for a week, but like you said, your apartment is your dream apartment. Like, how are you liking your apartment and like the city so far? Like, do you, I feel like you don't regret the decision, but like, do you regret it? Did like, what, how are you feeling? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
where's
on
your
the
head at with
topic
it?
of the apartment, I had like very specific criteria that I was looking for that honestly knocked out a lot of the apartments. So when I came down here, I only toured 3 apartments. And the third one that I toured is the one that I'm in. And it, like I said, it's literally my dream apartment. But I wanted to find a really good balance of liking my location, but then also liking my physical space. Because if you work from home, or if even if you don't work from home, but you are kind of like a homebody and you're home a lot, your space, your inside space is where you're spending most of your time. So it's really important for me to like that. But then also moving to a new city, I knew that I wanted to prioritize the location a little bit more than I did in Pittsburgh. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but when I was in Pittsburgh, I was in the suburbs. So it took me with traffic getting into the city like 30 to 35 minutes. If there wasn't traffic, it was like 20, but it could be upwards of like 45 minutes to get into the city depending on the time of day. And that was fine for me in Pittsburgh because, again, I've been there my whole life. It was comfortable for me. I spent less in rent because I was willing to be outside of the city. But coming here, I knew that I didn't really want to be in the suburbs where there wasn't a lot going on. I wanted it to be walkable to some things. I wanted to look around and see a bunch of other young people in their 20s and 30s and kind of like build that community. So the location was important for me as well. However, I will say my location preferences do allow me to prioritize my inside space a little bit more, because one of the apartment complexes that I toured was it's in like the Gulch area, if anyone listening is familiar with Nashville, but the Gulch is where all of like the high-rise apartments are. Like it's very city vibes. And everyone that I knew here was telling me like, okay, if you're moving to Nashville, you want to live in the Gulch. Like the Gulch is where it's at. So I toured an apartment complex there and it was a high-rise apartment. And I have a 2 bedroom here for, I don't know if I said the cost of my rent, but I have a 2 bedroom here at my current apartment for right around like $2,200 a month without any like utilities or anything, right around $2,200 a month. There, a 1 bedroom would have been like $2,600 a month. And it was like a pretty small 1 bedroom. And so that would have been me like prioritizing the location without really prioritizing my inside space. And when I went to go tour that location, I was like, this honestly isn't even my location preference. This is what everyone's telling me that I should want to do, but I'm a little bit more suburban than that. Like, I didn't really see myself walking Bella on a sidewalk every day in the middle of the city. I wanted something a little bit more residential. So finding that mix, and that's what I love about Nashville too, is that even outside of like the downtown area in the high-rise apartments, there's a lot of little like cute neighborhoods that are still very walkable and still have a lot of young people and apartment complexes and restaurants and coffee shops that feel more residential. So you're not feeling like you were in the middle, like downtown in a city. But then if I do want to go to the Gulch, it's literally not even a 10-minute drive. Like my gym is in the Gulch and it takes me like 8 minutes to drive there without like giving people my location. But yeah, it takes me like 8 minutes to drive there. So I feel like it's kind of the best of both worlds, and it allowed me to prioritize location and also the inside space in my unit.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this before because like maybe in a podcast episode or just like in our content like on our own pages that we both are more suburban girlies like and I feel like that's one of the struggles of because we both have yeah, I feel like maybe we have talked about this in a podcast episode before but we've had conversations about how we want to be close to things but being in that like downtown like feel where you're like right next to like the train station or like, you know what I mean? Like that vibe is not like that is not for me. Like I do not like that. I don't want to like, you know, be on like a super noisy street, but then it's like a double-edged sword because then you obviously want to be walking distance to things. And just like in America, most cities are not very walkable. And it's just like it's hard to find. Like you want to be close, but then you also want it to be quiet and like not, you know, crazy. So I'm glad that you found a balance because that's tricky. Also, I'm so jealous because 2,200 for a gorgeous 2 bedroom with amenities. Like I paid 2,400 for a 2 bedroom with not a singular amenity, and I mean it's walking distance to things, but not things I care to walk to. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
I think you were the one that said this in another podcast episode, but when you were touring units, you said that you just wanted to be walking distance to something, and that
Mhm.
really clicked with me. Like it isn't I don't need to be walking distance to everything that I want to do. Like every
Yeah.
bar that I want to go to. I don't need to be walking distance to like my gym in the Gulch, which is like the downtown area. I don't need to be able to walk to that. I have a car. I
Mhm.
like to get in my car and drive places, but I
Yeah.
do want to be walking distance to something. And I really love the area that I'm in where I can walk to. There's like a couple different like restaurants and this like healthy cafe type thing a couple minutes away from me. So there are things that I can walk to, but it doesn't have to be everything. But being
Yeah.
able to walk to something makes me feel like there's a lot more community around that because I'm out and about every day.
I've also learned too from like you and like from your apartment, like your experience at your Pittsburgh apartment, I've learned that in my next apartment, I want it to be somewhere that has amenities because like when I say my apartment doesn't have a singular amenity, I mean literally a singular amenity, like nothing. There's no shared space, no gym, no nothing. Not even like a community space where you can go and like sit and interact with other people. There's nothing at all. And when I was looking at apartments online, I was looking at one in Tampa. It literally was like 2,500 for a 2 bedroom and it had like a dog park, a pool, a sauna, a gym, like a nice gym. But like here every like if I want to go to do anything, like even if I just want to get out of my apartment and just like go work somewhere else, I'm going to like a completely different location. And it's not really like a community space because it's not when you're at like a co-working space, people are going to work alongside other people. So it's normal that like when you're grabbing coffee at the coffee station in the co-working spot, you're talking to each other and like things like that. But if I'm just going to a local cafe, I mean, I also live in the suburbs, like an hour outside the city. So it's not a ton of young people. So like I'm sitting next to like an older gentleman who's like, you know, reading the newspaper at the cafe. So it's just like a different vibe. But I think having a space with amenities too is so important. And I've also been thinking a lot about like what you were kind of saying earlier. When you actually think about the logistics of your day to day, I didn't realize this until literally the other week because I was thinking about where I want to move in January so much. And I was like, okay, well, I wanted to have this, and that. And then I was like, okay, let me think about this though. I'm like, I spend the majority of my days inside because I am working. Yes, it would be nice to have like cafes I could go work at or a co-working spot or amenities or whatever, but like the majority of my days I'm spending inside my space. So my space does need to be somewhere that I like, but also I love to go for like long walks outside and the whole purpose of moving somewhere else is because I want somewhere to explore. So if I'm living in a part of a city where I'm like, there's nothing around me. Well, then what the hell exploring am I doing? Because I
Yeah,
can't, like, you know what I mean? I'm like
there's no
walking down
exploring.
some like sketchy street. Yeah, there's literally no exploring happening. Or like, you know, I want to meet other people in their 20s. So the whole purpose is to not have to be a 30-minute drive from a Pilates studio that's like a lot of young women, which is like my situation now. If I wanted to go to a Pilates place, it's like probably at least a 20-minute drive. And my gym that I go to now is literally like I'll be in like a workout class and I'm like the only person under 35 or 40. Like, and it's just not, it's fine for this season of life, but it's not what I'm going for. But it's tricky because also being in like a downtown area, you'll be theoretically closer to certain things, but then also you lose so much on your space, like, which is kind of tricky. So it's good that you found a neighborhood where you kind of have like the perfect balance of both. Like you're close to some things you can go and walk to, but then you're not a super far drive from the areas like the Gulch and like places you'd want to go, which I feel like also comes in handy too when you want to go out to like a bar or a restaurant or something, because you can Uber there and it's not going to be this insane Uber. Like me being an hour outside the city, if I want to go into Boston, no, literally no sane Uber driver is going to drive me an hour outside the city. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I'm not at a distance where I can Uber in and out, which makes it like tricky. But yeah, it's tricky because the closer you get, like in Boston, like 2,600 would maybe get you like a studio, or like from my experience looking for apartments in Boston, a crusty 1 bedroom, and like not in a good area. It's falling apart. It's ugly AF. Like, you know, that's why I chose the unit I did. But it's hard to find like the perfect balance. But
I know. And
I'm
I feel
glad
like you just
did.
listed, I feel like you just listed all of the reasons why I chose Nashville as a city in general, because I knew I wanted to be able to afford a space that I loved. I would not move to New York City and spend $4,000 a month on a 600 square foot studio because I wouldn't be happy there. I'm very, you like get used to a certain quality of life living in a lower cost of living city. Like I love being in a luxury apartment complex with amenities, with modern fixtures and a dishwasher and all of these things. And if you move to a higher cost of living city, you kind of lose out on some of those things, or you just spend an arm and a leg and you can't afford to live there. But then the other thing with Nashville, you mentioned like the Ubers and stuff. I didn't realize this until after I moved here. I learned this a couple of days ago, that Nashville population wise is 4 times the size of Pittsburgh, but I was under the impression in my brain that it was the same size as Pittsburgh, because it feels very like I swear anytime I type something into my GPS it says it's 10 minutes away, where in Pittsburgh like I would type something into my GPS and it would say 35 minutes away. So I was
maybe it's more like densely packed rather than spread out.
Yeah, it's just not like a big geographical distance. Like the airport is 10 minutes away from me.
That's
and
so
like the
nice.
parts of the city that like I obviously don't live in are like 10 minutes away from me. Like nothing makes sense. But then you look at the population and it's 4 times the size of Pittsburgh. So it has that kind of like small town or small city feel, but there actually are a lot of people here and there's like a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, which is like that's the perfect mix. That's the one thing I've been thinking about a lot too with moving, is I feel like Boston is such a perfect size. And I think Boston has 650,000 people. I was like looking up the population to try to like see city, like which one would be similar size. But I didn't realize just how, like I was looking at Charleston. I think Charleston was 150,000. And I was like, whoa, like I did not realize just how much smaller it was. So I literally took Charleston off my list of places I might move to, because I'm like, I don't think that's going to be the feel that I'm looking for, because Boston feels like the perfect size to me. I just want a new experience.
I think that Nashville's population is like 800,000 or something.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it to be bigger than Boston, but I was shocked to see, I think Tampa had 750 or something.
Okay.
But like in my head, I thought that Boston was this really teeny tiny city, because it feels so familiar to me. It's so easy to get around Boston with like the T, which is what we call the train here. Like just like you can get anywhere. And I feel like, yeah, to me, it just seemed like a really small city, and it is small in comparison to like a Los Angeles or New York City, but that vibe is like perfect. But I didn't realize just how much smaller other cities were. Even like St. Pete was much smaller. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about. St. Pete is
very small because it's like a small beach town.
Yeah, it's like a beach town. But I feel like I don't like the big city vibe, to where like New York City, I will say the only place I've ever been in New York City when I have visited is Times Square. So people who are from New York City, they're going to be like, girl, shut up. Because I always am like, I don't like New York City, but I haven't really seen New York City. I've only seen Times Square. So I know that like, that's not a good judge and I should visit other areas, but it just seems so overwhelming to me. And also, yeah, the cost of living there is so high that I feel like I would just not be happy, because I don't want to live in a teeny tiny studio. But I do like the fact that larger cities have so much to do. But I like, to me in Boston gives small city vibes. Like when you're in like Brookline's my favorite area of the city. Brookline is so cute. It feels so like quaint and like it's just not overwhelming. But then the T also goes right through it and you can get anywhere you need to be in, 10, 15 minutes. And just like Back Bay and Fenway and like the South Boston, like it's so cute to me. Like it's just adorable. And I want a city that has that same feel where it has the smaller neighborhoods that are cute, but it's still big enough to have enough opportunity, but not big where it feels like overwhelming like New York
Yeah.
City, you
Well, I
know?
definitely think you're going to find it. And also, we were talking about this before the podcast episode, but at the end of the day, no move is permanent. And I
Yeah.
feel like we should normalize in our 20s moving somewhere without knowing that it's 100% the perfect location for you, because at the end of the day, our 20s go so fast. And the longer you like kind of delay making any decision, the like less opportunity you have to make the big move. But we are right out of time for this week's episode of the podcast. Please leave all of your recommendations for where Grace should move in Spotify, because she's been posting about this so much on her socials.
I don't
We've
know,
been talking about
guys.
it so much, and now that I just made a big move, I know she's going to be doing so by the end of this year, beginning of next year as well. But we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the podcast. And if you have any more questions for me about the move, costs associated with the move, how to plan a big move, you can leave those in Spotify as well, or DM us on Instagram at Girls Talk Money Pod. But thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the podcast, and until next week.